Hello, and welcome to VIBIN with Tonza, where there are no limits to what we discuss.
All right, so this is my first Zoom recording for VIBIN with Tonza. I've been trying to think of a way to continue recording during the time of this coronavirus pandemic, and learned all about Zoom during this period of time. So thank you guys for being my guinea pigs and coming on to the show and talking about what's going on with you all. Before we start, I guess I want to take a few minutes and have you all introduce yourselves and tell the listeners where you're located. Let's start with the youngest person, Courtney.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Courtney. I'm 17 and I'm from New York. Well, I'm in Long Island, New York right now.
Okay. And Courtney, are you home and out of school now as a result of Corona?
Yeah, I'm home and we've been home for maybe 2 weeks so far, and they just extended the date until April 15th.
Wow. Okay. And you're in high school?
Yes, I'm a senior.
You're a senior in high school?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for introducing yourself. We'll come back to you, Alyssa.
Hello, I'm Alyssa. I am a junior at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I'm currently still in Chapel Hill at my apartment, but this week I am leaving to Tennessee to spend some time with my family during this pandemic.
Okay, so you're getting on a plane flying from North Carolina to Tennessee?
Yes, but I'm not worried because I think everyone is going to be avoiding the airport, so no, not a lot of happening in there.
So you feel like you'll be pretty safe, huh?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm worried as your mom, but you'll be okay. You're a junior at Chapel Hill, right?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So your classes are done for the semester, right?
They're just online.
Okay.
Yes. Still very much in effect, just online.
Okay, all right. Cachet, will you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Cachet. I am from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I go to Cornell University and I'm currently a senior. Yeah, it's right now we're actually off. We start on Monday doing virtual learning, so that'll be pretty interesting.
Okay.
And I've been home for about 2 weeks now in Florida.
So you drove back from Cornell to Florida?
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
Wow. So you and Courtney are both seniors, Courtney being a senior in high school and you being a senior in college. How has this affected your senior year? Because this is supposed to be like the most exciting time for you all and you're looking forward to graduation. Have your schools made any decisions about graduation yet?
Well, we actually recently got an email saying that we would have a graduation. Our graduation is usually held in May around, I think, Memorial Day, but we're not going to have it then. They didn't give us a date yet, but they said that we will have one in Ithaca, New York, which is where Cornell is, but the date is to be announced still.
Wow. What about you, Courtney?
My school hasn't came up with any updates yet. As far as I'm concerned, graduation is still happening in June. Prom is still happening, all of those things, but they're pretty late with updates. So I guess we'll see. Plus, all my stuff was in June anyway.
Okay. All right. So, Cachet, I know you have a job lined up and you're scheduled to be in California when?
Well, I start on August 3rd, but I'd probably be moving out there mid-July or the beginning of July.
Okay.
I'm not sure how that's working now, though.
Yeah. So if they have graduation in July or August, I'm sure that will cause some issues.
That was something that I'm really concerned about because I know that the neighboring schools are doing an August graduation and they're thinking about the first week in August, which would be when I'm starting. So I'm not sure that I'd be able to return back to school for graduation now.
Are you disappointed?
Yes.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like it was building up to graduation and now I'll just be finishing school, but not actually having a ceremony to celebrate that.
Yeah, that's a big milestone to miss, so I understand how you feel. Let me ask you all a general question. How has the coronavirus and this whole move towards social distancing affected your everyday lives? If you could describe what your life is like now, that basically everywhere we go, there's a push towards social distancing. And Alyssa, let's start.
Okay. So I think that, well, I feel like for me, I'm already like a social distancer, like naturally. So I'm not really into like going out, hanging out all the time. So for me, like just staying in the house is like natural to me. But then there are things like, oh, you're not really supposed to be going to the stores a lot and things like that. So that kind of has been, been trying to stop myself from going to the store as much. And also like during this time, I figured out that I definitely enjoy like in class learning as opposed to online, because online is much, I don't know, I guess it's just because I'm not there like at that time listening to that professor talk, because we do like pre-recorded lectures, then it's harder for me to like sit down and pay attention, and because I'm not on a schedule. So I just think that while I am like a more distant person, I like to be on a schedule, and during this time there is no schedule, so that's kind of hard for me.
Yeah, I bet. How about you, Cache?
I actually feel very similar. I'm naturally an introvert, so I don't usually like going out to socialize too much. I'm very much a home person, but I do realize that it gets kind of boring being home all the time. Like at least usually I could go to the mall or go to the store, and it seems like now, I'm sorry, it seems like now I've just been in my house for days and I'm not sure when that is going to end. And then just my family, they've been really worried. Like with my sister, her job, they're doing a lot of layoffs right now. She works for a rental car company. So it's just been really scary for her, not knowing if she's going to have to face that in the future and how long she's going to have to worry about this.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are really worried about their job security. And as a self-employed person, as much as I am enjoying this time off, I also worry because if I'm not out there able to generate income, there's no income for me to take care of my household. So I definitely understand the stress of that. And I think a lot of people are dealing with that. Courtney, what about you? How has the coronavirus affected you?
I'm not enjoying this. Okay, so usually my everyday schedule is school, then work, and home, and I'm completely fine with that because it keeps me busy. So I'm okay with school, with like not having school right now because I didn't really like it to begin with. But now that I can't go to work, it's like, okay, I don't have any money coming in. All the plans that I had to spend money on, I can't do right now. Yeah, I can't even go outside to see my friends because my grandma's so worried about bringing it home.
Right.
So there's literally nothing to do. And say I go to school and we have like counselors there. So say like for mental health purposes, I go talk to my counselor every day, or I go talk to my friends as an escape from anything else. That is completely done now because I can't go to school or anything.
Yeah. So it's a big adjustment. As
Yes.
young people, and I consider you all young people, even though two of you are technically adults, how do you feel about this? Are you fearful? Are you apprehensive? How are you feeling right now with everything that's going on? And let's start with Cache. Are you there, Kesha?
Mom.
Alyssa? Are you there?
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, you're back.
Okay, I'm sorry. But that was me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Kesha, how are you feeling? Are you afraid, apprehensive?
Well, at first I wasn't as afraid as I should have been. Like maybe 2 weeks ago when we first found out that we'd be going back home and school would be canceled for a couple of weeks. At first I wasn't that scared and I thought, it'll be over in a couple of weeks and things will go back to normal. I feel like now I'm a lot more scared because when I go out, I see everyone wearing masks, and in the stores, there are lines separating people 6 feet apart when you stand to check out. And, with the layoffs, with my family, that's been really scary. And then I don't know how it's going to work for me entering the workforce, if that's going to be a possibility, if I'll be able to drive across country to get to California to move in. So it's been a little bit stressful.
Right, right. And people often think young people are not concerned and worried. So that's curious for you all to share how you're feeling. Alyssa, how about you?
I think that, I don't really know how to feel. Like, yeah, there's a part of me that's like, I'm, like, oh my gosh, like this person might have it, like I shouldn't be hanging out. But then again, I don't really know how to feel. And I don't know if that's because like we haven't personally like had anyone like connected to it. But like I just feel like if I'm doing my part, then like I don't have a reason to be fearful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because like if I'm staying in the house away from everybody, then I know I'm not gonna get it.
Okay. Right. Right.
Yeah.
And it's not senior year for you, so you won't have to worry about all of that stuff. And I guess you described it as affecting you in terms of your learning. But you're right. If you're practicing social distancing, you should be okay. What about you, Courtney? Are you fearful?
No, I feel like the people my age make so many, and it's probably not great, but they make so many jokes about it, and you see so many memes, so it's more comforting that. So most of, okay, I'm not laughing about it right now. I'm just saying like it's. I don't feel like I'm scared. I think I'm just a little upset that my senior year is kind of messed up over it. I feel like it's gonna be gone in a couple of months, or at least hopefully. But I guess since it hasn't hit close to home, I don't feel it yet. I'm not really scared or anxious.
Mm-hmm. Understandable. Understandable. So I don't want to spend the whole time with you young ladies talking about Corona. So let's switch hats for a little while. As you all know, the goal with VIBIN with Tonza and the Vibe is women's empowerment, making sure we're all connecting across generational lines to make sure as women we're supporting each other and empowering one another. So, simple question. What does empowerment mean to each of you? And who wants to jump in first and answer?
I'll go.
Okay.
To me, empowerment means like building one another up in like your own different way, and just like putting forth knowledge into one another so that we can expand our brains and expand our knowledge about things, and definitely focusing on and like not tearing one another down in like a negative light.
Thanks, Alyssa. Kesha, what does empowerment mean to you?
I think it's actually really similar. Definitely building each other up. Also regaining control of your life too, and just making sure you're doing what you need to do to become who you want to be, and not being clouded by other things that are surrounding you as much.
Mm-hmm. That's a good answer. Courtney?
Okay. I'd say empowerment is, I don't know, constantly uplifting people and not necessarily having to know them personally, to be able to connect to them and understand what someone else is going through, like women as a whole, to stand up for another woman, not even knowing them personally. I think is just something great that everybody should do. And I think that, that's it. Just understanding and being able to uplift someone even though you don't know them personally.
Great answer. So as young women, as you're navigating and coming into who you are as adult women, do you feel like we are empowering one another, or there's a lot of work to do across the board in terms of women supporting and empowering one another? Courtney, you can go.
Oh, okay. I think that the whole lot of work to do, because I'm not saying there's not great females out there that won't empower you and lift you up, but there's definitely a lot that's always in competition with you, and there's a lot that have the mindset of, I want to see you do good, but like not better than me, and they don't have the understanding of, okay, it's not my time yet, but that's great for you, and it's just a whole lot of competition. So
yeah.
Also, I think that there is more like women's empowerment than in the past, because I feel like recently there has been a lot of focus on women's empowerment. So more women are stepping up and doing the things that, you know, past women should have been doing to lift one another up. But while there is, like, yeah, there is some happening, I do agree with Courtney that there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah. I definitely have seen a shift in recent times towards more empowerment. Like you can see on social media, there's a body positive movement and, you know, the natural hair movement, and you just see it's become more common to support other women. Of course, there is a very long way to go. You do see people tearing others down often, but I think more often that I see, especially on social media, people trying to uplift others.
So you definitely see a shift, but still the need for improvement. Do you see or do you feel empowerment taking place across generational lines? Like, I feel like there's a big gap between my generation and your generation. And I don't know if it's because of communication barriers or we just all feel like we can't relate to one another, but I feel like there's something missing because we're not communicating across generational lines as women. Do you all agree with that or disagree?
I think that I feel like our generation, like we're the ones to tear each other down, like going against competition against one another. Wow, like I feel like your generation is the ones who are like more focusing on, okay, like, no, you guys need to be building each other up in these type of ways, or you guys are speaking positive words to us to build us up, and like how we should be building other women up. So I feel like in generations, like the generations are against like within the generation we're against each other, but like I feel like outside it's like the other generations are trying to help each other.
Okay, all right,
if that makes sense.
Yeah. That does, absolutely. Cache?
I think I've noticed the opposite, actually. Maybe in older generations, sometimes I've seen, I guess, just a little bit of maybe judging the younger generation. And I see maybe the younger generation being more accepting of a lot of different things and empowering in that way and lifting each other up in that way. So that has been my experience personally. So sometimes, like, with my mom and my grandma, sometimes they'll say like, oh, this person did this thing and they shouldn't be doing that. But whereas my generation would think, okay, well, she's doing what she wants. She's taking control of her life. And that's how we would see it. But I've definitely seen it both ways.
Yeah. Allie, I got to jump back to you for a minute. As my daughter, do you feel like I judge sometimes coming from a different generation?
I think that in the past you could have been judgmental, but I feel like since you've jumped into like this new light, you're more like free and open and accepting to multiple ideas. So I think that that's definitely a shift that more people should take on.
So you like it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, Courtney, what do you think?
I think I'd agree with Kasha, because that happens a whole lot, at least in my household, where they're like, oh, she's wearing that, like that's not okay. And you judge people based off of little things, whereas of now it's like I'm more like, it's not that big of a deal. Like I see it more of she's doing what she wants, and that's totally okay with me, and you shouldn't be judging. And then they judge other people their age too. So I just feel like it's more with them. I'm more kind of, I mean, that's not my thing, but if you do it, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like they think like that.
So I wrote a piece a couple of months ago called Crabs in a Barrel, where I talked about, as women, we need to do a better job basically of uplifting and supporting one another and get rid of this mentality of trying to hold each other down. And I believe it or not, even in my generation, that still exists. And I don't know what it takes for us to completely turn that around, but I think being non-judgmental, being more open-minded, and I also would say being comfortable in your skin and in your walk in life would do a lot to shift that mindset of, I gotta basically hold her down because I'm feeling inadequate in some way. What would you all say about the crabs in a barrel mentality and how we need to change that? Or do we need to change that? Courtney?
Oh, well, it's definitely something that should be changed, because that whole way of thinking is negative. If you're not okay with something in yourself, I feel like everyone should think like, okay, this is not where I want it to be right now. Mm-hmm. But maybe instead of tearing somebody else down for something that you don't have, you look to them like, well, how do I get like this? Or what did you do that I can get like this, instead of tearing somebody else down because you don't have what they have.
Okay. Tashay, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's something we definitely need to change. We should be uplifting others and helping others become better so that we could also strive to get there, and so that they could help us get there also. If we're all trying to tear each other down, then really no one is getting any better.
Right.
Yes, I agree with Cache.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So some women would say that they have to tear each other down or compete in order to reserve their spot in the playing field. You all seem to disagree with that and think if we support one another and help one another get there, we're all gonna rise. Is that, am I assessing that right?
I feel like in America, it's like a big competition, when why can't we just all like be at the top? Mm-hmm. So I think that because we were like founded on this idea of like competition and like everybody can't have a place at the top, then that's why everyone's like constantly like that. But I feel like we can all be at the top. Like if we're building one another up, then like one person makes it up and then they can pull the next person up. So I feel like we just need to, like, if we have a different mindset about it, then
yeah, I agree. I think though it's so mature for you all to think that way at your age, because I can honestly say when I was your age, I don't know if I was there yet. It took growth and just exploring who I was and coming into myself to get to that point. So I applaud you all for being so young and being at that stage. The other thing I wanted to ask you all, because to kind of piggyback off of that crabs in a barrel mentality, I think that we struggle as women with showing our vulnerability. Do you all struggle with being vulnerable around people? And can you think of a time that you felt vulnerable and felt like you needed to kind of hold it in?
Yes. This semester, I started to take this poverty and inequality course, and it's an amazing course, but sometimes I felt like the topics hit very close to home. Mm-hmm. So I found myself not wanting to speak up in class discussions and just feeling kind of uncomfortable sharing with the class because I felt like it was examining me and my life. Mm-hmm. And that was just very uncomfortable for me. I know it's something that I want to work on and just become more comfortable sharing my experiences and not feeling like I have to hide that and suppress mm-hmm. how I feel.
Without being judged, right? Without being judged. About being judged. Yeah. You will get there. Trust me. You will get there. Alyssa will tell you, I'm very open now and I'm like, I don't care what people think. This is me. This is my life. But I wasn't there in my 20s. And I don't even think I was there in my 30s. I think it was in my 40s. But my hope is that through my experience, I can encourage young women like you all to get there a lot earlier, because I think you would be so much happier if you get there earlier. Alyssa, what about you? Have you had a time where you felt vulnerable and uncomfortable sharing that?
I don't know that I can think about like a specific time, but I know like I don't really like to show my vulnerability just because, sometimes people might take advantage of that, or they might like look down on you with like, oh, like she's being soft, or like I just feel like in the business world, vulnerability is not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I like try not like I feel like nowadays we talk about it more and how like it's okay to be vulnerable, but it's not something that like the big portion of the world like sees or has developed that mindset yet. So I try to steer clear of it and, like express my feelings at home to like people that I know I can like trust.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that's more, the world is more like that as it relates to women, or just across the board, male and female?
Well, I think that's male and female, because if you're a guy and you're vulnerable, then it's like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
But and then if you're a girl and you're vulnerable, it's like, oh, that's just girls. Like they're always sensitive or like feel some type of way about something. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you don't like being labeled as being sensitive or
Yeah.
put in that box. I completely understand that. Courtney, do you have a time that you can share where you felt vulnerable? And
I think that I'm vulnerable most of the time, but I don't use vulnerable as like a negative connotation. So it's like, I think it's okay to be vulnerable, but I do have trouble figuring out when it's okay and when it's not, because 100% people can take advantage of you being vulnerable and showing that you're emotional or showing that you're sensitive to certain topics. Um, but I think my dad instilled in me so much that if you're vulnerable with people and they take advantage of it, then it's fine. At least you were 100% you and 100% open, and they didn't understand it, and that's it. And you move on from it. So I don't really see it as a negative thing. And then a time where I was vulnerable, I think when I went to Duke, the writing camp and I did not know the type of kids that were going to be there with me. So when I came, I think I was just very out of my element because I went to a predominantly Black school. I was not rich. Um, and these kids, when they shared stories about their homes, it was like their father was like first in their grandparents or whatever were first in Virginia, or they own these huge companies and they were just rich. And I didn't see myself fitting into any of those conversations, so I didn't speak, which led to me not making friends there because I wasn't open or vulnerable because I didn't want anybody else around me to judge me.
mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that, sharing your vulnerability. I think that we all struggle with that in certain settings.